My theme is win now. How are you going to win everything? Are you winning in the classroom? What are you doing to do that? If a ball's on the ground, how are you doing to win that? If you see someone getting picked on, how are you going to win the situation? After all this, after high school, when things get hard, how are they going to choose to win?
All right, we're here at Tintic, or Tintic as the locals will say it, with Coach Connor Patten. I am so excited to talk to you about this, and I want to kind of get the elephant out of the room early of what is it like coaching at a 1A school with a small student body? And then what does 1A mean? What does your student body look like here?
Right, exactly. I mean, 1A is incredible. I think the biggest thing especially is you get to know each individual student, not just your players on your team, but you get to know the whole community, all the students, the community that comes out, everyone that wants to be part of your program. It's really special. I mean, back to your question of student body, we have about 162 students. So, me being a teacher here myself, I get to teach everybody, which is pretty awesome. But I think 1A means just togetherness, and it's a community. I mean, all the coaches, all the athletes, all the administrators, the teachers, we bond together, we come together, we collaborate, and in the case of sports, we compete really well together because there's that sense of, that person, that athlete. You kind of grow friends from different parts of the state in rural areas. And so with that in mind, I think that makes competition even more because you get to grow those relationships at a much more deeper level.
What are some of the harder parts about being or coaching at a 1A school?
I think you look at it from big school perspective, there's a lot to choose from, right? There's a lot of, tryouts and things you can sift out there. That could be a weakness, but at the same time, I kind of view that as a strength where I get to know those kids before they come to tryouts, how they are doing academically, their family life. And so I think that's probably the biggest really strength weakness, I guess you could say. But ultimately, I mean, I wouldn't trade it. I think it's ultimately an underrated skill as far as, a student body that's willing to, be that small and also willing to do sports and having those resources to be able to collab with everybody.
What do tryouts look like here, and then how many kids do you ultimately end up keeping for your teams at the various levels?
Something about my program is if you come that first day of practice, there's a spot for you, especially because, there's not a whole lot to choose from, right? But ultimately, I'm a really big believer in development. So, kids that want to come out, no matter what the skill level, at this age, there's some sort of level as far as basketball, some sort of understanding. But I always give my kids the benefit of the doubt and use those ways to challenge them, putting them in freshman game situations to where they can grow and can develop. That's really out to anybody in Tintic community. I always kind of put my recruiting in the school as far as that goes is you're a talented player, you're a talented person, you got the grades. Trust me to help you develop into what you can be. So, and I take a lot of pride in that is, me and my coaching staff really pride ourselves in skill development and building IQ. And ultimately, that's what builds good basketball players. You get the occasional players that are just naturally skilled, but we pride ourselves in developing you, making you into a smart player and a physical player. And ultimately, when you have those three things, there's a role for you on any team.
That's great. And so how many, I'm assuming, so you can field a freshman, a sophomore, a JV, and a varsity team. So how many players does that give you in your team usually per year?
Prospectively, I'm looking at about 20 to 25. Last year we had 25. Ultimately, there are some kids that do double up, especially for my younger grades. I like to have them play multiple games, 2 games. I've seen a lot of progress in them, giving them a lot of time on the court because I think it's kind of useless to where, they're coming in, they're freshmen, you think they're good, but ultimately they don't fall on your depth chart. If anything, I think those small, coming into high school sports, you're on a freshman, you're on a JV team, you need to play those players. You need to get them court time. You're trying to build your future varsity team through that. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some when it comes to a JV, freshman, sophomore, whatever have you. but you just need to make time to get them on the court, because skill work and just practice is one thing, but actual 5-on-5 competition is the ultimate skill development. That's the ultimate thing, is something I believe as a coach, you got to play 5-on-5 against, guys on your team, and then you got to get a perspective of what other teams are doing to build your smartness as a player. So I'd say, about 18, 25, and everyone plays. Last year we had everybody play, and no matter what the skill level, everybody scored a basket. So, and that doesn't happen a whole lot in any other program, right? So you may get on a team, you ride the bench, and maybe you come in, you never score a bucket. But everyone on my team got in, had some time, did some good things, and ultimately, if you're thinking of scoring a bucket is a good thing, they scored a bucket. So,
what does youth development look like in a community like Eureka here? So in terms of basketball pre-high school, are there teams or gym access? Is it here at the high school? How are younger kids kind of developing to play for the high school here?
Right, yeah, that's a good question. Historically, we've had summer camps in the summer where me, my coaching staff, and our athletes, have gotten out, taught some kids, different fundamental things, different terminology that we use. Something that I'm really pushing for this year and that we're probably going to have happen, we're going to have a bantam team. Nice. So Tintic, with being a 1A school, a lot of 1A schools really struggle when it comes to the middle school aspect, getting a team, getting them out. Playing a team that's close is also a big thing. I think we're in a really sweet spot to where we can go down to Utah County, to a Payson or to a Juab or Delta. And so I've really been pushing for that, and that's something that's going to be happening this year, is getting these boys outside of the junior jazz perspective. Because, junior jazz is fun, but if you're looking to play high school sports, you got to put yourself on a team that's going to play hard competition and is really going to push you to be better. And ultimately, those first 3 years, you may not win a whole lot of games, but you're with your class, you play together, and then by the time you're in the high school route, you got maybe 3-4 years with that same class under your belt, and then we incorporate that terminology to where when they come to me, they know when I say, hey, set a flare screen, set a ghost, let's get a double pin down, double drag screen, they know what that means. Yeah. I think that's something that's really going to be impactful for this community, is getting our competition harder at an earlier age. And the coaches that I have for that I picked out are incredible. They've been part of this community, and they want to see this program grow. And I think that's the big things. You got to have coaches that believe in the program and are willing to push those athletes sooner. Obviously build them with positivity, but put them in situations where they're actually going to grow. Yeah. Again, if you're a junior jazz coach, obviously you're not going to say, hey, with this team, we're going to get this much better, right? You got to have goals and you got to have objectives with these younger classmen. That's what I've challenged my youth coaches to do, and I think they're going to really do a great job, and I think we're going to see a lot of jump as far as skill, competitiveness, physicality when it comes to small middle school teams. That's my hope, is to build strong, competitive, strong-willed, and ultimately just good people, ball players coming right into the program.
I have a lot of questions off of this, so let's see if we can get through all of them. So, because I come from a place where there's a 6A school, it's a big school, and if they're playing on a 6A school, it seems like a lot of the kids that come there have the goal of playing college basketball. Yeah. Whether they will or not, that's kind of their goal as a young kid. In a community like this, coming to the 1A school, is that still the goal for a lot of your players, or are they coming in just to get the exercise and be part of this team and to be part of this community? What does that youth kind of mindset look like for the players that are coming to play here?
There's some, that have those expectations, and I might say maybe sometimes unreal expectations. Sometimes, kid comes in my office during our first meeting together before the season gets started. I ask them what their goals are, and they say, I want to play in the NBA. I want to play on a college. And ultimately, I say, okay, how are we going to break that down? What kind of attributes do you need to gather before you can start thinking about that? And if they don't, I feel like obviously I can give them some because I'm around them a whole lot. But ultimately, here at Tintic in my program, I'm all about building strong and kind and leadership-driven individuals. And then when you ultimately have that, if the college aspect comes around, somebody notices that, then awesome. Great. I know there's a couple in my program that have gotten attention from colleges, but it's not because they're skilled, even though they are. They have great defensive stance and ultimately dogs on defense and rebounding, which is good to have. But ultimately, they buy into the culture of leadership and kindness and willing to put in the hard work. And ultimately, what I say in my program, my theme is win now. How are you going to win everything? Like, are you winning in the classroom? What are you doing to do that? If a ball's on the ground, how are you doing to win that? If you see someone getting picked on, how are you going to win the situation? And ultimately, I want them, after all this, after high school, when things get hard, how are they going to choose to win? That's ultimately what I try to do, try to demonstrate that. When things don't go our way, what are the wins out of it? Yeah. So ultimately, college conversation does come up, and if it happens, I think it should happen naturally. Mm-hmm. I think somebody should stand out enough as a good person first, along with the skill, obviously, in order to get that attention. But ultimately, I want to build the good people first. And obviously, I trust in my development and my coaches and my system where I'll make you a good player.
Yeah.
So.
That's another question that I have too, is around the assistants and the coaches that you bring on. Like, how do you find assistant coaches that are willing to be here? Because there's a lot of time that goes into this. Also for yourself, are you living here in the city? Are you having to commute? What are the realities of all of that look like?
Yeah, I loved Eureka so much that I moved here. I bought a house.
Oh, nice.
We live right on the end of town here. I'm really selective about my assistants, but I also want to give my assistants opportunities to grow. I don't want an assistant. I don't think any head coach wants this, an assistant that's just the head cheerleader. Head coach says something, and that assistant coach says, yeah, what coach said, you need to do that. I want my assistant coaches, at times, I want them to challenge me. I want to give them situations where they're getting head coach experience. I really give a lot of responsibility to my coaches, my assistants. They're both alumni, and so they know what the school and the culture is about walking into this, which I think is a huge help. And so when I'm looking at assistants, I look to their ties to the school, like, do they know what it's about? Especially Tintic, it's a very unique situation. What are they getting themselves into? I give a lot of work to my assistants. I try to challenge them. That's the first thing I said is, we're really going to run this like a college program when I was in college, where you're doing the scouting reports, you're on court skill development. I'm going to give you sections to teach something, giving you opportunities to teach. I'm going to give you some sort of in-game opportunities and situations to be a leader. I'm going to have you give some sort of responsibilities to help our team grow. And I think that's what builds a good program. It can't just be one voice. It's got to be multiple. Yourself, your players, and your assistant coaches. I've been around a lot of coaches that's the thing with their staff is they just don't give opportunities for coaches, and are their coaches developing too? No. I think it's important for a staff to develop too. Always getting better. Like this summer, I took my assistants out to a NBA coaches clinic where we were taught by the best assistant coaches in the NBA in Las Vegas. I want them to feel like they're getting better and growing as a coach too. I think when it comes to any assistant coach or any head coach, ask for those opportunities or give those opportunities. Because, when everyone's included, every voice is taken into account. That's when you start to win. That's when everyone starts to feel that they contributed to a win. And that's when everyone wants to stay involved. Because if, the head coach and players are doing something, the assistants can be like, oh, yeah, coach and the players won that. But I want my assistants to feel the love too. Because they ultimately do a lot of work. Like you said, they're sacrificing their time, their families, their attention to be here. To little to nothing, but to build relationships with these guys. And so if you're my assistant, I do make you work. So it's good.
It's funny because I'm an assistant right now, and you talk about like them getting head coaching experience there, and I'm like, man, I sure hope that my head coach just doesn't get thrown out of a game just to give me experience there, just to get teed up a few times. What are the realities of the travel schedule look like? Kind of who are your rivals here in the 1A level, and then when it is away game time, what does that look like from a travel perspective for you and your team?
Yeah, our 1A, you're expected to travel on average maybe 2.5 hours to a game. Wow. Okay. Our longest region opponent is 4.5 hours in Manila, Utah, down up by Flaming Gorge. So we travel. I think we hit every single corner of the state. I think, but no, it's good. We have a lot of good teams in our region. When you're talking about Region 22, we go out to Wendover. That's our nearest opponent.
How far is that?
That's about 2 hours, 2.5. But that rivalry ever since kind of coming here, that's kind of been the big one. We've always kind of traded winning seasons, losing seasons, or we get them one year, they get us another. And they're always really tough. They're very run heavy. They can shoot the ball. They make you work. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think my boys want to stand up because they've been running so much, but it's good. Like I mentioned, Manila, you got a really good Tabiota team under Coach Gines, who's been there for like 38 years. Wow. There's a lot of consistency. He's won 2 state championships there. You got Rich High School, and they've obviously been a state contender for a little bit of while now. And ultimately, you got down south with Panguitch and Coach Barney, what he's got down there. You come into every single 1A game, and it's never easy. Everybody in 1A community is very hard-nosed, very hardworking, blue-collar. And so you're always going to get guys that want to win and want to beat you bad, want to beat you bad. I know, bigger schools, you just want to get out there and survive. But no, these 1A schools are coming in like, I'm going to beat the living crap out of you, because that's how they're trained. And that's ultimately what you got to be in this league is you got to be tough as nails. You got to be able to take a cheat elbow sometimes. You got to take some physicality. And I think that's what makes great basketball players is being exposed to that. But no, 1A and the travel, I mean, it's a lot. It's a little bit ways away, but wherever we're going, we're always going to get a good game. And so I'm never too mad about it. Get to be with my players, get to create some memories, but the game's always going to be good. So I'm never too upset.
What does it look like from like the swag and the gear and fundraising? What does that all look like here in this community?
We do have people that do donate, and that really does help out a lot. We do a lot of fundraising. So when it comes to that, we try to make it fun, involve the community. And as far as overall athletics program, maybe we put together a total athletics fundraiser. But something we really try to do is, when it comes to basketball, we do a lot of kickoff events. Like we have a kickoff camp this year, build off our revenue that way. We have something for the alumni every year so they can come in, contribute something, and then maybe there's like a tournament or a dinner or something like that. This year it's an alumni 5-on-5 tournament. We're going to be here, both these courts, and they're just going to be run pretty much the whole day right before basketball season gets going. Last year we had something called Minor Madness. It's kind of like, at Duke, like Cameron Crazy Madness, or Marriott Madness for BYU is, we had teams come here. We had the alumni play, then we had blue and white games, we had raffles. And that we see a lot of huge success from that is when we bring everyone back to their roots. We bring everyone back to where it all started, get them reminiscing in their old jerseys, and ultimately just help them feel that they're involved. I know there's a lot of alumni at big schools. It's hard to be involved. You kind of have to pick your way at it, like, where do I fit in? But here, I always say everyone's welcome back where the roots are. 1A always is the road leading back to home. For here, I always want our alumni to feel like they can come back, give something, and contribute, and ultimately reminisce on the good times. Because I talk to all this alumni, they say all these good things, and I always say, don't let it stop. Continue to be a part of it, because these young men, these young women, all these athletes, they deserve it.
It's so as a kid, my family and I would go on road trips a lot of the times, and we're driving through rural areas of Utah. And this is just my lack of experience. But as we drive through places like here, and you drive through a community and you'd see a small town and a school, I would always have the question of what do the people in this town do for a living, right? Like, what is the main economic drivers of a town like Eureka? And so from your perspective and your players and their parents, what are some of the economic, or what are they doing to stay and earn a living here?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't work for the elementary or the high school, you're kind of going all over the place, really. I admire the parents here in this community. They're super hardworking, and they always make time for their kids to go to a sporting event or an academic event. A lot of them, so if they're not working at the schools, I know a couple that go out into Utah County, Juab County, and work in some sort of blue-collar, electrician, construction. We see a lot of families that are very much like that. You also see people that go out to Dugway Proving Grounds out here just out west. There's a couple of maintenance, military jobs out there, surveillance jobs out there. A lot of them, too, have to wake up really early. Our maintenance director actually used to work out there, and he'd have to wake up at 4 in the morning, and there was a shuttle that'd come and get him, take him out there, bring him back. And that's about 2 hours, hour and 45 out in the middle of the desert out there. So the parents are willing to do just whatever it takes as far as job goes in order to stay in this community. And that might tell a story of why Eureka is so special, why people don't want to leave, right? Is because there's a magic here, there's a community, there's key families that are here that keep the community thriving and growing, and they love the schools. I think the community really sees that their students are given opportunities that they wouldn't at any other big school. As far as sports, the arts, academics, just FFA is a big one too. Kids are given opportunities here, and so parents are going to expand out and go to those jobs because ultimately they want to stay here. I mean, ultimately, if there's a job that opens up here, then great, but they're not going to move somewhere else, just so that they can leave this town. To me, that's sent a message to me of, how important it is to be here and to be part of this. So amazing families, amazing parents, and I think that just spreads down to their kids because they raise some amazing kids here too.
I think like the commitment level of any high school athlete and their parents is so high. And then to your point, especially here in a smaller community, if you are having to travel far for work and other things, like that commitment level almost is taken to a whole different plateau of just what they're able to sacrifice for their kids to have.
Yeah, they're willing to call off work because of a Friday night game, or they got to go up to Manila or Ridge. They're willing to call them off and be like, hey, my boy, my son, my daughter, they play this game. I'm going to go support them.
Yeah.
But ultimately, they make up those hours. So it's an amazing community that really cares about not just the athletics, but cares about their kids.
Yeah.
You care about the kids first, the athletics second. So I think a lot of parents get caught up in the mode of, basketball, you got to do this. I care about this sport, but ultimately care about your kid. Mm-hmm. And then enjoy the athletics. Enjoy it. Don't get caught up in all the politics, all the different things that go into high school sports, because if you get caught up, it's a rabbit hole. You get flown down into it. But find yourself appreciating and loving your kids, and I think you'll enjoy those events a lot better. And I think Eureka does an amazing job at that, is they love their kids, and so that's why these stands are filled up every night.
Yeah. What does it look like for you to build this culture? Because now you're coming into your second year, new coach here, kind of newer to the community. So what goes into the culture that you want to build, and then actually kind of implementing that and establishing that idea for the players, the parents? You have administrators. There's a lot of people that are involved in just the boys basketball team culture. So how are you kind of going through all of that?
My big culture thing, like I mentioned, is win now. We're going to win everything. So not just on the court, I really have a high standard of our kids in the classroom. On our player contract, they have to maintain a 3.0, 3.1. And I think the UHSA is like a 2.5. And so I really challenge them to strive for excellence. And when ultimately they're striving for excellence, they're doing a great job, they're being smart in the classroom, I know they're going to be smart on the court. There was something that I heard that when an athlete has A's, they're going to be A students on the court too. And so I really strive for when grades are down. I mean, ultimately I teach a lot of them is like, hey, let's get this grade up, strive for excellence, win now, right? We got to win this grade. And so I think that's the big thing is you gotta push these kids, strive for excellence, but you push them because you believe they can do it. How are we going to get them to see that potential? How are we going to get them to see they can win any situation if they really wanted to? Yeah. And that's ultimately the culture is win everything, win now. And after high school, things are rough, job, community's rough, just go win. If you want to do something, just go win. Like one of my players, I have a kind of interesting story for you is, he worked all hard all summer. And he got really good. He was fitting in the rotation. He was going to be a really good guard for us this last season. Second game in, he tears his ACL. And I could just see himself and his self-perspective just downgraded. He really was down on himself. He wasn't performing well in his classes as he should. His attitude changed. And ultimately, as a coach, I could have been like, oh, that's a lost cause. You're not on the team anymore. Obviously, you're not playing. But for me, I really approached him, and I gave him a role. I'm like, you're our director of operations this year. So you're holding our scout. You're reminding players of their scouting assignments and their matchups. I'm going to teach you these things. Ultimately, I told him, like, you can either lose, let this season be a loss, or you can let it be a win and come win with us. And ultimately, that's what he decided to do. And now he's a manager at Snow College, #1 ranked JUCO in the country, because he saw what it takes to win. And he did an amazing job as part of, like, our student staff, you could say. And now he's winning in a whole lot of things. Like, people would die to go to Fort Worth, Texas, to the Fort Worth Jamboree. You know, he was there filming stuff.
Yeah.
He decided to win. He could have easily said, high school sucked because of this situation. I'm done. You know, but he made the most out of it, and he trusted that he could win because of the encouragement that was around him. So that's our culture. Yeah. Things get hard. There's always an avenue to win.
I love that. Both that avenue to winning, because life after high school, I mean, if I could go back in high school, everything was kind of taken care of for me in a lot of ways. And then the real world isn't quite that way. But and then also the student athletes, you talk about the scouting reports, you brought that up a few times, of being able to adapt to other teams. And there has to be a knowledge base of being able to recognize patterns or to do certain things with that. So I love that. With scouting, are you leveraging something like Huddle? It looks like there might be a camera or something up there. Like, how are you getting scouting reports or opportunities to scout other teams?
So, I mean, it's kind of Jimmy rigged a little bit, I guess, in 1A school, but we try to make it as close to his college program as we can. We have Pixelot, so VidSwap is what we use. So it records all of our games. It breaks down stats. It breaks down individual makes, defensive stops for each player, each possession, by possession. Shows turnovers. You know, it does a really good job breaking it down. And it puts it in max preps for you. Okay. And so we do that. When it comes to scout, we do a lot of video breakdown. Like I mentioned with my assistants, you know, they're possibly assigned a scout for that opponent. So let's say it's, you know, a Manila or a Panguitch. It's like, hey, assistant here, you got this scout. I want you to own it. Work with me on it. This is the outline of how I want to do it. I usually do the first scout of the year to try to get them to see. And then ultimately I say, all right, this is kind of your scout. Give them time in practice. Like, hey, scout team, this is your time. Teach us what you see. Ultimately, I'm looking at that stuff too, but I want to see how my assistants are doing as far as gaining that head coach experience, like I mentioned. Or I'm going to give them those voices. I'm going to give them opportunities to actually coach. Again, not cheerlead, coach. And so we do that video breakdown. We have paper scouting reports, and we quiz them on the bus ride there. We're kind of, I guess, pretty big onto it. You know, we catch the boys when they're, you know, kind of thinking about it. We make them study their scout, and then one of my assistants goes back that's over the scout and is like, hey, tell me about this player. And if you don't know it, you're not playing. So there's a lot of expectation there, but our boys have done an incredible job with that. But
how are you getting the film on the other teams? Is that Max Preps? Is that Huddle?
Yeah, I mean, wherever you can find them.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, there's some that live stream on YouTube, Max Preps. A lot of them do have Huddle, so we go and watch Huddle. If we watch them here and then we have film on them here, we do that. We usually watch around 2 to 3 games because, I mean, one game they could do one thing. The other game, they're probably doing something else. So we usually try to match up team. Like if they play a big team, how are they playing against a big team? If they're playing against a team that's like us, how are they playing? And if they're playing a team that's maybe a bit smaller than them, how are they playing? I want to get all their actions. I want to get all of the things they do, all of their basic lineups that they do. I want to get their play calls. You know, I want to know everything about them so that when they come and play them, we know every single thing down to the very movement of their shoe that they do. So, I mean, it's not super in-depth like that, but you know what I mean. Yeah. We want our players to be prepared. So, and I think that's ultimately what coaches got to adapt to is you can't just come in and be like, oh, I think they're going to be good, and you have nothing on them. You're probably going to lose the game because if they throw in something you're not expecting, how are you going to coach it? If you yourself as a coach haven't watched the film or looked at those things. But ultimately, I mean, you as a coach, coaches are most likely watching film, but are you showing your players? Are you teaching them to analyze the game like you are? So when we're breaking down film, it's like, hey, what are they setting here? What are they doing? What's this action called? So that, off to the side, if there's a play call called, our players can ultimately understand it right away. I yell it and say, hey, they're doing this. We're in it. We already know. We practiced it. Film breakdown, scouting report, and then we practice and we build our practices on who we're playing. So if we're playing a certain opponent and they like to run a 1-3-1, a lot of our practice in our scout team, they're going to run a 1-3-1 trap. So try to make it hard. We try to adapt so that they can come in and know exactly what's happening. Yeah. So
that's awesome. I want to transition a little bit to how did you get here, right? How did you start a coaching career? What made you want to be a coach, and then ultimately ending up here? What does that story look like?
That story's wild. So you ready?
Yeah, we're ready.
So, but it's a great story, and ultimately, I think it's divine design. I'll say that of how I ended up being here. So, I wasn't originally going to be a coach. I wanted to get into marriage and family therapy, social work, something like that to health youth. Right after I got off my mission, I grew up in South Jordan, got off my mission, and I was all about, okay, I'm going into this healthcare, social work kind of field, right? I want to help people. I just maybe didn't know how, because I started questioning, like, do I really want to do this? I started taking courses, and I was like, I don't know if I'm really enjoying this. Like, I want to do something where I can go to work and enjoy it every day, because it's part of life. You got to enjoy things. I want to enjoy life. And ultimately, you're probably in your job more than sometimes you're with your family a lot of the time. So I started really thinking about what I wanted to do. It was a lot of consulting with, my best friend, my wife, what I wanted to do. And she's the one that's like, whatever you want to do, just go do it and do it well. And so I was really thinking about it, and I was doing some journaling and, seeking inspiration from different sources. And ultimately the thought came to me, it was like, what do you like to do? Like, what are the things you like? I'm like, well, favorite thing that I love is I love basketball. I love the game. I played it in high school. Ultimately, that's what I love. That's like my pastime, is going to play it, going to watch it. I just want to be around that. I love being around that scene. And then just the thought came back of, why aren't you doing it? So I was like, shoot, I guess that's what I got to do, right? And so took a big risk. I was working a full-time job in healthcare, but I made time to volunteer as a manager under Coach John Judkins at Utah Tech. We were down there at Dixie, Utah Tech area for a while, and we loved it. Ultimately, I was really shadowing and just trying to see what I could learn from John Judkins, the coach that he is, and all the accomplishments that he's given. I really noted down a lot of things and paid really special attention to what he did. I'd go into some of their video breakdowns with their coaches and really just take everything I could. I wanted to be a sponge. It's like, let me take everything here. Worked really hard at that. I started to build connections because I was like, hey, I want to get into coaching. I want to do this. And so I've been doing that for, a few months. I was trying to take that step and finding somewhere, and ultimately nothing was really following through. It'd just kind of be like, nope, open door, kind of close, not the right fit. Not enough experience is what I was told a lot of the time. And so I started getting disheartened, like, okay, is this really what I want to do? Or is this just like a passion that I have that I'm crazy about? Am I crazy? But ultimately, I built a connection with Jeff Reiner and Coach Ryan Lundgren at College of Southern Idaho. And they were really wanting to take a chance on me and help me learn the ways of coaching. And so, they didn't have me come to a practice. They didn't have me do that. They're like, hey, meet us down in Phoenix, Arizona at Section 7, the biggest recruiting event in the West, and come shadow with us. Come do that stuff. And I'm like, okay. So I'm sitting next to, Juwan Howard, and I'm sitting next to Brian Dutcher and all these amazing coaches and just getting all this information. And I'm just like, I don't belong here. But I loved it. It was so exhilarating and just learning, and I loved it. And I was like, okay, this is kind of affirming what I want to do. So what ended up happening is Coach Ryan Lundgren, he got the head coach job at NAIA powerhouse Carroll College in the Frontier Conference in Montana. He calls me about a week later, and he's like, hey, how do you feel about Helena? And so ultimately I took the risk. It was for no money. I was leaving a full-time job, and my daughter was just born. I have 2 kids.
Wow.
So I decided, ultimately this is going to be the best thing for me and my family. We're going to make this work somehow. I don't know how, but it's going to work. And so my daughter was born, and a week later we moved up to Helena, Montana, me, my wife, and my 2 kids. Wow. We had, like a faculty apartment there, kind of small apartment, but my wife, I consulted with her a lot, and she's like, now's the time to take the risk, because I think if you work hard at it, something good's going to come out of it. She's ultimately been my best, friend and benefactor when it's come to all this, and supporter. So did that, went up there, learned a lot from Coach Lundgren and Coach Hobbs, who was standout, Alex Hobbs at Boise State. Just really, again, I was a sponge, learning, getting on-court experience, coaching some really high-level guys. We had a winning record. We went to a conference championship game, and we were selected in March to go in a national tournament. What better of starting experience can you get with that, right? Yeah. No, my head coach, he got the associate head coach job at Eastern Washington, and I really had to reflect on, okay, what do I do next, right? Because ultimately when college staffs, when head coach gets a new job or whatever, the staff kind of disperses, right? I remember thinking back to my wife. She went to high school in Orderville, Valley High School. It's a 1A high school down south. I remember watching my brother-in-law play, and I was like, man, wouldn't it be fun to coach small ball? Just do that small town, be part of a community, and do that. And so that was always in the back of my mind. And so I came back to Utah, interviewed for a couple of head coaching jobs, boys and girls, and I had a couple offers on the table. One of them was Tintic. When I found out it opened up, I came to interview, and I just drove around a little while before the interview, and I just fell in love with the town. I fell in love with, ultimately my administrators. I really grew a liking to them, and just the opportunity that these athletes have and what they told me about their mission statement of just enduring and accountability. It was all resonating with me. And so ultimately, turning down a couple, 5A, 4A, some head coaching opportunities, I decided to choose 1A because there's great community, great values, and small ball was just really fun to me. So that's how I ended up here.
That's amazing. And it's funny because as I talk to more and more coaches, it's almost like the wives of coaches are such a big influence. And it's almost like the strength of a coaching or at least a school program can be directly tied to how supportive that wife is, right? Because the head coach has to be away a lot, and there's a lot of time that's going into this. And then opening your doors to players at all hours of the night for whatever may or may not happen. And so that's really nice that you have that support staff there.
And she's the main reason, that I'm able to do this and kind of live this dream job, I guess you could say, right? Teaching at the school that I coach. Yeah. None of this would have been without her, and she even does a lot too. Like sometimes she's doing books, sometimes she's handing out water. She's a part of this community too. She's not just the coach's wife that you never see. No, she's the coach's wife that's heavily involved, that talks with the players, and that treats them like her little brothers. Because my wife's not that old, we're not that old. My wife is just all in, bought in, not just for my sake, but because she cares about this community and she loves it and she wants an active part in it too. So I just got ultimately lucky on the marriage end. I don't know why she still puts up with me, but I'll take it. Yeah. So it's good.
No, that's great. Let's transition to this next year. So tryouts are coming up a few weeks from now, and what are you looking forward to this year with the team that you have?
Oh man, I want to be gritty. Yeah. We have a lot of young guys that have something to prove. We lost 7 seniors. Wow. And some really, really good guys that just played together. All 5 of our starters averaged double figures, and at least had around 4 or 5 assists a game. So we really shared the ball well, and they were just really close as a group. And I want the same here. I want guys to be close on the court as well as close together, as friends, build those relationships. That's ultimately what I'm looking for as far as personality-wise is if you're willing to be a friend to somebody that you wouldn't otherwise be a friend to. Like if somebody looks intimidating, are you going to go up and talk to them and build that rapport, or are you going to stay back because you're afraid they're going to not accept you, right? But ultimately, it's really about who you know, building those relationships. That's what builds the most chemistry. Sure, you can play fives, you can do all those things, but you guys grow to a relationship where you like each other, you're willing to be around each other outside of practice, it's over. It's that's a great team. That's what team's all about, is not court smart, court here, it's everywhere. Mm-hmm. Team everywhere, not team court, not team classroom, team everywhere. Mm-hmm. Where are you bringing your team? So I'm looking for that. I play really physical. I play really fast. I really push these guys to give their all in practice, because practice should be here. And then, games, I want them to be about close, because if you're practicing at a certain level, about right here, if it's kind of lax and you go into a game-like situation on a Friday night where the crowd is loud and the game is physical and shots are going up that don't usually go up, are you going to respond well? Probably not. So gritty guys, great individuals, and guys that are willing to learn and ask questions. I know there's some coaches that kind of say their thing and they expect you to do it. I'm very much like that. I'm kind of changing my philosophy to where I want my guys to ask questions. Like after I explain something, it's like, hey, ask a question. It's good for us to commune with each other. Because if you really do, and if you're not asking that question, you go and mess up, no, that's probably on you. I'm going to give you all the opportunity in the world to teach, to lead, and also to ask. Yeah. Ask questions. Utilize your leaders. So if it's not me, are you talking to your captains? Like, hey, Cap, what is this play again? Where am I supposed to be here? What's this terminology? Ask the important questions. So guys are smart, physical, want to play hard, and are willing to ask the questions that matter. Because, there's some questions where you explain it and they're like, so what's this play again? That's not a good question to ask. I'm looking for guys that are like, okay, so what if this happens? What's the other option that we're looking at? Okay, if they're running this, how does this play apply? Where am I supposed to be if this guy's doing this to me? Ask those questions. And ultimately, you got to get used to asking good questions to your coach and to your teammates. Because if you're not asking good questions, like I said, if you're asking bad questions mean you're not paying attention. Mm-hmm. Good questions mean you want to get better. Yeah. So I highly encourage that. I really want these guys to feel like they have a voice and not just feel like I'm the puppet master and I control everything. I want them to be smart to where they ask the question and then in game they can read the option. Or they can ask the question, I can tell them another option and help them out. But I want these guys to be an extension of a coach. Mm-hmm. I want them to coach themselves out there to where they're fully prepared to where they see it. They've asked that question. It's like, oh, I already know what to do because I asked that question. Yeah. So build smart guys, ask good questions, pay attention so that you can have good questions.
I love what you said about the practice too, because there's a quote that I've kind of latched onto recently of, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your training. And so there was another one, the famous UConn women's coach, Gino, where he was like, you're delusional if you think you're going to practice here and then magically play up here.
Yep.
Because how you practice is how you play. So I really like bringing that intensity to the practices. I think is such an important and a big deal for these kids.
It's really loud. I'm yelling a lot. I usually lose my voice by the first day. But ultimately, I yell at the boys because I care about them. Yeah. I think a lot of boys don't understand is when a coach is yelling at you, they ultimately think, man, I suck. I'm not a good player. No, my coach is getting mad at me because I'm not doing something right. Maybe you're not doing something right? But my big thing, I tell all my players this. If I'm yelling at you, feel good about it because I'm watching you and I care about your development. Be worried when I stop talking to you. Like, if I'm not giving you, like, anything, ultimately I'm going to try to help everybody. But, no, when I get on you, when I'm pushing you to be better, take it. Say, yes, coach, I get it. I understand. Help me be better. I think a lot of, kids now just don't really realize the power when it comes to, coaching is when they're yelling at you, it's not because they're angry or, maybe some coaches are, or they're not just bad sports, and they're just yelling at you to just try to be mad and show power. A lot of these coaches are yelling at you because they have passion. I love the game so much. I care about you so much. this is what you're doing. Come on, let's do better. I expect more out of you. This is our expectation. Let's go. Come on, push yourself, right? Because ultimately, that's how you get to your destination. If you're pulling a hand cart, you got to push the cart. That's really ultimately what I try to do is make those practices intense. In games, I can kind of get like that too. A lot of my assistants say I do, funny gimmicks, and putting your hands up and yelling and doing all those things. But if anything, they can think I'm a weirdo all I want, but they can't say that I'm not passionate enough. And ultimately, those boys, by the time they're done with me, they've all messaged me, those seniors I had last year, and said, when you yelled at me, the first time, I hated you because I was never given that from a coach before. And then toward the end, when I started to realize it was just your passion talking, and I needed to get there with you.
I think a lot of that too is that chemistry that you've talked about earlier of your teammates, like the kids on the team being able to build that chemistry to lift each other up too, right? When coach is getting down, like, hey, go build them up as the teammate, whether that's on the court or off the court. We've had another coach talk about how often his teammates and his players hung out with each other outside of school. So in a town like this, what does the entertainment look like for high school kids outside of school? What are they going to do to hang out, or where are they going to go for things to do on a weekend?
Oh man, they get really creative. I know a lot of them just go to each other's houses, have like a bonfire and everything. That's always good. I mean, the desert's just right out the canyon door out there, right? I know a lot of them like to go eat, in Utah County, Chili's is the big one, and In-N-Out. So, after open gyms and everything that we've had, all of them are like, hey, who wants to go down to Chili's? Some of them are like, I don't have money. It's like, fine, I'll pay for you. Just pay me back. I just want you to come, and I love that stuff. It's fun. Guys are willing to go anywhere to just hang out with each other. And I think we have a good group of guys that just love doing that. Whether it's, hopping on the game after, I have my own opinions about that, but they're willing to just do stuff together and willing to travel to do it. Or like, hey, there's a guy last year that was really into swing dancing, one of our captains. He tried to get guys out. I don't know if any of them did, but he was just he wanted to have his guys there. And so, it's just little things. As long as they're together, they can have fun. And I think that's what makes a good team is you don't have to go super extravagant. Like if you're trying to impress your teammates by going and doing all this, spending this amount of money, I think you're not really building chemistry. You're just trying to make yourself known, and there's a difference. I think building chemistry is no matter what you're doing, making it so that everyone is included in having fun. And these boys do an excellent job at that. Even though some things are, kind of weird and, they do all that, and they're always willing to go and just have fun together, no matter where it is. So we always try to give them opportunities to, hey, this guy wasn't here today. Hey, reach out to him, see what he's going through. Hey, ask him to hang out, go do this. But ultimately, I don't have to do a whole lot, which I think is a really big blessing as a coach because these guys just do it on their own. They realize and they understand what's going to take to win. Like when we have our 2-week moratorium coming up, and guys are like, hey, every day these 2 weeks we're getting together and then we're going to go hang out and do stuff. We're just going to build our chemistry together. I have a little part in that, but I think that just shows what awesome group of guys I have. They're just willing to be together and they're willing to work hard together. So it's good.
What are the boundaries for this high school? Do you have many kids that are having to travel quite a ways to get to here, or is it all pretty localized to around the high school?
Yeah, so Eureka obviously is a big one. There's a little town just out in the desert here. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called Vernon.
Okay.
Vernon's a little bit smaller in this size. They have to take a bus about 25, 30 minutes to get here. I know a lot of kids in like Goshen, Genoa, a lot of them, they fall in the Payson boundaries, but they can apply to come here for like the smaller class sizes, and maybe they have a friend that goes here. And Tintic, relatively speaking, is, pretty decently close, I'd say. So we have a couple of kids from Goshen and Genoa, kind of those outskirts of Santaquin a little bit. Yeah, it's a pretty big, wide, scale map, I guess you could say. Yeah.
Do you have a lot of multi-sport athletes? Like, do you come here, do they have opportunities to play a bunch of different sports? Just maybe.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. There's one player in particular. He's like a 5-sport athlete up here. But I think it's good. Like, a lot of my boys were in fall baseball for 1A this year. And, some of them, if they're not doing that, they're doing cross country. To have a team, you kind of have to have those boys to do it. But they want to do it. They want to stay active and get better. And I think that helps with my conditioning a little bit the first week because they're already kind of in that shape. And they show up to open gym, and it's like, oh, they've already been running. They've already been doing this. They already have some physicality and muscle on them a little bit. That's good. But, yeah, it's I have a lot. I mean, kids here can just do just about anything. And if they try their best, they can get pretty good at it. Like one of the students I was talking to you about, like he was doing basketball, baseball. He's a cheerleader. He's in FFA. Let me see. He did track and field as well. He's not going to do cross country. He says that's too hard. But you know what I mean is just in order to have like teams here, a lot of the players here have to play multiple sports. And so I think it's a good thing. I know you've talked about it a little bit with some other coaches about multi-sport athletes, what you think about it. I think it's ultimately really good when it comes to a 1A perspective because guys are in shape. They're playing sports all the time. They get little breaks here and there, sure, but they're actively engaged and actively working different muscle groups, different parts of their body. There's always some sort of intense running, some sort of exercise and getting in the weight room. And I think we as coaches at this school, especially, we collaborate a lot with each other of what we're doing. We kind of utilize when their season starts to come to a close, we try to say like, hey, can you try to do this, so you can get this guy prepared for throwing javelin. We as coaches, it's a community here too. We really work together so that we can pair that person for the next sport after the next sport. We just kind of pass each other on and give each of them goals and try to help them to accomplish every sport. I know a lot of coaches just don't communicate, and then, they're good at one sport, maybe not the best at the other. But here at Tintic, we really pride ourselves in getting everybody really good. Yeah. And so we as coaches are going to help each other out so that we can have those athlete goals accomplished.
That's really neat. What do you like outside of basketball? What do you like to do for fun? What outside of coaching or watching basketball?
Man, I like going on road trips. So I like to travel. I like going new places. Yeah. So whether that's, going for a hike or just on a family vacation somewhere. I really like to learn about history. I'm a really big history buff, podcasts and books. And I do like to read a good bit here and there. And just anything outdoors. Like I love to camp. I love to go out and scout and hunt with my family. Pretty much down for anything. I have to give myself a leeway from basketball or else I'm going to turn into a crazy person, but no, ultimately I'm just anything with my family, anything outdoors. I like learning new things. If I'm with my family, if I'm outside, then life is good.
Yeah. So for the kids that are coming up, maybe 8th graders going into 9th grade and their parents, or the kids that want to come and play this year, what kind of message do you have for them and their parents about what they can expect here as the basketball team, and what do you hope for their kids, and making sure that the parents feel comfortable turning their kids over for such a large amount of time throughout the fall and winter season here in the basketball gym?
Yeah, as like I've kind of mentioned before, is these kids are going to work hard. They're going to learn the value of hard work. They're going to learn what it takes to win. They're going to know how to manage when it comes to losing. But that's life, right? We're teaching them the game of life, is trying to teach them when we lose, how do we find the avenue to win? We're going to go up against good competition. This program is on the uprise. We're not going to be, playing just to, win and get that easy win. Like, I really want to challenge our program to take new heights. Like, if we really want to play in that Saturday night state championship game, it's got to start earlier. We got to compete earlier, and we got to have the backing of everybody in order to do it. Yeah. Right. And I think we're getting to a point where that's starting to be born with this bantam teams that we got going on right now and the coaches we have. But outside of all that, No, it's the values that I want instilled. I want guys to come in and be leaders, good leaders, leaders that are willing to lift everybody up, willing to do just about anything to make sure that everyone is taken care of. Good people. I want hard workers. I want guys that are just willing to dive for the ball because it's fun. And some people think, I don't want to scrape my knees or anything like that. But if you do the hard things and you start to do it a lot, it becomes fun. Like, are you willing to go get a rebound because it's fun? Are you willing to dive on the floor because it's fun? That attitude of still have fun and do it while competing. Yeah. And that's a hard balance to follow, right? But I trust myself and my program to know that there's going to be both. Like, you're going to get the best competition. You're going to be prepared the best way. I mean, we treat this like a college level program for a reason because we want to take that step up. But just know, you come with us, you work hard, you start understanding these things, you're going to have a lot of fun doing it. Like, you're going to have a lot of fun winning, and you're going to have a lot of fun being with guys that you're going to build memories with. And ultimately, down the line, when you get a job, when you have a family of your own, you can look back and say, I know how to win because of this program. I know how to win. The message I have to say to our parents and this community and to kids coming up in this is just decide to win. Decide to win, and once you decide to do that, even when things get hard, you will have fun doing it. Yeah. And I just can't express enough how grateful I am to be here. It's the very best thing and the best situation for me and my family, because not only is because it's a great place to raise kids, but it's a great place to have a great experience with everybody around me. And ultimately, that's what we try to build. Is we're trying to build a program to where it's not recognized for just the wins and for the hard-nosed kids that are just going to be runners and are going to make you get frustrated every night. It's, you can look at them and be like, man, that is a good kid right there. Like, he's going to win in life. Come with that attitude to expect to win, and everything you do, win now, meaning win with your parents, meaning, don't bribe your parents. That's not what that means. It's in the house. Like, are you doing the extra chore? Are you hanging out with your sister, your younger sibling? Are you going outside and doing things that's not asked of you to do? That's winning. It's the things that aren't asked of you. Is, I can give you all that. That's just the teaching. You're doing things that are taught. But the winning is, man, are you going to want to do the little things? Do you want to do it? And if you say yes, then you win.
It's so interesting, too, because I think of winning, and so much of that is you kind of tie it to some sort of a scoreboard, right? And was talking with Parker Van Dyke on a different episode, who's a shooter, right? He's always known for being a great shooter, and how he deals with a time where he might be missing shots. And he had made the observation that sometimes winning isn't the outcome. It's, did you make the right decision, right? Did you make the right decision in that moment? And you can make the right decisions in moments and still lose a game, or still not have the world kind of roll the red carpet out for you, and life has happened where there are going to be losses, but are you able to make the decisions that are winning decisions that will put you in those positions to succeed more often? And I thought that was really interesting. And it made me think, too, of, because we played you guys in the Great Western Classic. You got your team up there, and you're playing big schools. And so that was a question I had for you, too, is what is the message to your team going into games against these schools that at every position, they're bigger, they're stronger, they're faster in different ways. And in those games, your team never quit. They never gave up. And that was what was so interesting, is that in that particular game, the score got a little bit out of hand, but your team never stopped. And they were just so aggressive, and they just fought so hard, which I think that's something that's hard to teach people, and it's something to watch, is when you are down, do you give up? Do you quit? Or do you keep fighting with you and your brothers behind you that are going forward? So kind of how do you approach those and putting your team into these situations against bigger schools in those types of tournaments?
Yeah, I think they're just glad to be there, to be honest with you. I know that a lot of teams kind of get caught like deer in the headlights, like you could say. They could have easily ran for the hills when, everything got bad, right? And to be honest with you, there was a point in time where Tintic that's kind of been a weakness for them. As things get out of hand, they kind of run away. But for me, I'm trying to change it as, it's an opportunity. It's a learning perspective. It's something that we're learning. We're learning from great teams. Like when we played you in the Great Western Classic, I get guys out to those because it's hard. It's competitive, and it makes you better. Like, you get to see what the top schools look like, what they do, the physicality. I mean, like this last summer, we played 1A through 6A. We played every single, classification in Utah. And a lot of the kids, wonder, like, why are we doing that? Why are we doing this? It's because our program deserves it. We deserve to go up and play and compete. Even if we win or lose, it doesn't matter. We're just getting better. And that's what my kids come out of every single situation is they're going to fight to the end. We push them. They decide they're just going to win, They're going to win every possession. Even down to the last buzzer, they just think they're going to win. They think they're going to win until the very last moment. Then they look over, it's like, oh, maybe we lost. But how did we win? Right? But no, that's probably what you saw is, we just kept going and kept playing because they thought we could go ahead and win somehow. And I think not a lot of teams understand that is when the score gets a little hefty, do you still believe you can win? I mean, anything's possible.
Yeah.
And so these boys, no matter what, they just played. They enjoyed the experience that they're playing ball together. And ultimately, they wanted to win and they believed they could somehow, some way. We'll figure it out. And even, that's Tintic basketball.
Like, I can attest to that with your team. Again, at no point in that game did it feel like they were hanging their heads or that they were like, this is lame or anything. It was just, they just kept fighting hard all the way to the end. And I think that it helps you as a coach to put them then in those situations too of, in practice, if they don't understand, hey, why am I ripping through so hard or why am I setting this pick in this way? It's like, well, because what you can get away with in certain levels, you won't get away with in other levels, right? And so I think that gives you at least some leverage there of like, hey, we can throw a shot like this and it might go in once in a while, but when you get to the other levels, that doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's just how do you adapt to it?
Yeah.
Like, we knew coming into it that different teams play different ways. That helps us from one in season. It just adds to our resume. Like, hey, we played a team that does this or is really tall or is just lob threat. You don't get a lot of lob threat in 1A. So if you go up against a team that's very lob threat heavy and you know how to defend that, it just ultimately adds to the smarts of your program.
Yeah.
And it adds to the smarts of your staff to know what to do in those situations. Like I've said before, and I'll say it again, is just Tintic is just all about getting better and wanting to win. And I think the mindset and the culture is as strong as ever.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be strong for a long time. So I'm really excited and just amazed by what these boys can do and how they've taken this culture. It's really hard to bring in a new culture when there's kind of been old things there for so long, but they're grabbing it by the horns and they're just ready for the ride. So I'm very pleased.
I love it. And a few months ago, I didn't know what Tintic was. I didn't know where it was. And now I do. And so I'm excited to see what happens this year for you and for your team. And I appreciate you taking this time. We're going to go on for well over an hour now. So I know that you're a busy guy. You have life. And so I appreciate you taking this time. And I hope that anybody who watches this just gets a cool glimpse of the realities of 1A basketball and what you're trying to build here. So thank you. Thank
Absolutely.
you for taking this and your parents and your players, your administration. We're just excited. We're just excited to see it all.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
It's been great.
Thanks, Coach.